I cry so much in the film, but each time is very different. The first time is when Delphine is in the garden with her friends in the suburbs of Paris. I'm crying while sat on some steps. He wanted me to cry at that moment. He wanted me to say my lines and then cry, and so I did. Then in the countryside in Cherbourg, it was different. We had shot the scene with the lunch where I'm saying that I don't eat meat. He had secretly told the other actors to just keep asking me questions about my vegetarianism and stressed me out so the improvisation could take place. Otherwise, I could have just said I don't eat meat and ended it there. I was obliged to answer these questions. It created cinema. Those are words from actor Marie Rivière on her work on Éric Rohmer's 1986 film, The Green Ray, or Le Rayon Vert. Seeing Faces in Movies is a podcast where each month I focus on the works of a different director or cinematographer, and each week I invite a guest on to discuss a film and the artist's filmography. I'm your host, Felicia Maroney. We're talking about The Green Ray today. So, quick synopsis of the film is: it's July and Delphine has nowhere to go for the summer. She feels bored and empty, but this won't last. One day she accidentally meets someone who's totally made for her. The film stars Marie Rivière as Delphine, Maria Luisa Garcia as Manuela, Vincent Gauthier as Jacques, Béatrice Roman as Béatrice, and Rosette as Françoise. It's written by Éric Rohmer and Marie Rivière, cinematography by Sophie Maintinier, directed by Éric Rohmer, edited by Maria Luisa Garcia, and music by Jean-Louis Valero. Today, my guest is Frieda Beckerman. And I know Frieda from the Royal Film Club and has great taste in film.
Oh,
knew you loved The Green Ray.
You.
Had to have you on. So I'm glad to have you on. I'm really excited. Right?
About time.
I know. It's a long time
Just kidding.
coming. Really, really long time coming. Shameful on my part, to be honest.
I would say so. Yeah. I know you were checking the bottom of the list. Like, who haven't I had on yet?
That's not true. But it's definitely overdue is the least I can say about that.
Yeah, I think we have very similar tastes in movies. I don't know.
I think we do.
How to describe it exactly. Yeah, I think you have great taste as well.
Well, speaking of, I'm interested before we get into, well, we're here to talk about The Green Ray, but as your first time guest, I'd love to hear more about the guest before we get into the film. So how did you get into watching more films outside of the North American Blockbuster?
I did go to Blockbuster a lot. Let's just say that my dad was a huge movie buff. He's got great taste. A lot of stuff from like the 40s, a lot of like Marx Brothers movies. I always watched those when I was a kid. I've been watching old movies like since probably too young to understand them like the way I do now, but I've always had an appreciation for movies, and I went to film school, and I've always wanted to move to LA just so I could like be around screenings. There's a real love of film out here that I love, and I just think it's like it's the best medium to describe like things. I know it's very broad. It's better than just music. It's better than just a painting. It's the highest art form to me personally. I have a lot of appreciation. I think it does matter when you see a movie in order for it to have that kind of impact, the maximum impact it could have. And when I saw this movie, I was like 27, and I was very much like the character, single working woman, single working ladies. And I was just like, oh my God, like this character is so like me. It's freaky. It's like someone's been spying on me in my life, because I've had all of these conversations with my friends. What was your relationship to the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was going to say out of all the Romer characters, she's probably who I relate to the most, even though I do find her annoying a lot of the time
Yeah,
too.
same.
But it's like the parts of me that I find annoying is what's annoying about her. Like you said, I was like, I not super comfortable, at least for me, seeing myself so honestly on screen like that, where I was like, oh man, maybe I should get over myself. That being said, though, we don't have like Europe that we're able to just hop and skip to, or places in Paris.
I'm glad you brought that up. We'll have to talk about that. The French vacationness of this movie.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the first time you watched this and your thoughts there, because I'm sure on any rewatch that you might have done, it's your thoughts might have changed or they didn't, but we'll get into that. I'm curious though, before we get into the actual meat of the film, are you a Romer fan or is this like a one-off of his that you
Oh
like?
man, this was the first Romer film I ever saw. And
Hmm.
I tried watching other ones and it just has not been the same experience for me personally. I like his whole deal. I
Yeah.
like what he's doing with his actors. This movie just like really hit hard. And I don't think I've seen a Romer film that has matched what this film like has done for me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that he's not a great director. I just don't find any of his other movies as engaging as this one. I mean, probably because I relate to the main character.
Yeah. No, that's 100% fair. I think this is kind of its own entity, and it is very similar to
Mm.
the rest of his stuff, but there is something that separates it from the rest of them. And I think that's why when you Google or whatever, look up his name on Letterboxd, it's the first one that comes up because I think it's the one that people relate to the most out of
Hmm.
his work. But I'm ready to get into the movie itself. Romer has these like series or sets of films that he does. He's got, the Moral Tales, he's got the Four Seasons, and this one is part of a comedy and proverbs set of films. This is the fifth in the series. And he kind of based it, he was inspired by a quote by Rimbaud. And the quote was, "Oh, may the time come when hearts fall in love." And
Oh,
he basically just wrote a whole story about that. Him and the actress. So they wrote it. She did had a huge part in the writing, and he gave her writing credit because he's like, "You did help me write this, so you should get a story credit," which is cool of him to do, the least you can ask for. But that quote is interesting. It's very Romer, and when I read that, I was like, "Yeah, he would be inspired by this and write a whole story."
yeah,
And it's essentially the thesis of the film. Like she wants to find love. That's what she
she
wants,
does.
right? And she's finding it really hard to not only find love, but love herself. I don't know if you had read about that quote or heard about it before, but how do you feel that relates to?
I think this movie is actually pretty optimistic and
Mm,
pretty bright. And, at times it's very depressing. And, you do feel like a sense of sadness kind of
mm,
throughout. And you feel bad, for Delphine. But ultimately, it has a very nice ending. It's like a fairy tale a bit. It's a love story. And it's honest. It's not like an American rom-com.
mm.
Where they end up together at the end. It's more about her finding love. And yeah, what do you think? What do you think the quote means?
Yeah, I think I like what you said that it is an optimistic story because I don't even think back in my head probably realized that, but didn't fully realize that it is more optimistic than maybe his other stuff. Because even if those two don't end up together, you see that she's kind of maybe starting to find herself and accept herself.
Yes, yeah.
And I think the love may not always be a romantic love. And it could translate to that quote just to fall in love with oneself, which sounds corny, but it's like
Mm.
she needs it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see that. Like, she's so happy that she sees the green ray at the end. It can't be really about the guy next to her. It's about her. She's like opening herself up to these signs, and you want that for her.
'Cause she's having a hard time,
Yes, she
like
is.
she's really going through it. And it's funny because this is a very lot less movie, right? There's not
Hmm.
much going on other than she's had a vacation planned. Her friend canceled on her, and instead of going herself, she starts stressing out and trying to find someone else to go on vacation with or try and find somewhere else to go. And essentially, the conversations she has with each person is about either their vacations or them suggesting, you should go here, come here with us, and them kind of dragging her along and just kind of being like, don't worry about it, you can come with us, or you can go on your own here. And one of her friends says, you'll find love when you're not looking for it. But in her
Hmm.
mind, she's like, I can't not because I'm looking for it. So I will never not be looking for it. But because it's just like so dialogue heavy and it's just talking about her essentially, because a lot of these characters kind of talk about her and her personality, and they kind of give
Yeah.
it to her sometimes, and they're like, "This is who you are. You need to do this," and it's a lot to hear for her, and it's a lot to hear as an audience member. How did you feel about that? Because sometimes you need to be told honestly about who you are.
Totally. Yeah, those are good friends. Gosh, this is what I love about her, and how complex she is. She does have a lot of like people kind of, I don't know, attacking her a little bit in conversations,
Mm,
like kind of ganging up on her. Like, what? You're a vegetarian? Like,
yeah,
that's why. Like, do you get protein? Like, just kind of bombarding
yeah,
her. And you feel her not opening up. Her response to these conversations are always like, "You're invading my privacy. Back off. What business do you have asking me these questions?" So in that sense, she's kind of like closed off, but also she says that because she feels attacked, and I think
mhm,
there's if she was a different person, she would react to the conversations differently. She would react to the ganging up on her differently. She would like, she could have just laughed off
yeah,
everything these people are saying, and she takes it so personally. So I think part of it is her fault. She kind of lends herself to being like a sad sack.
yeah,
She's a sad sack, and she's wishy-washy, and like that friend that will be like, "Oh, hey," and then you're like, "Oh, what's wrong? Are you okay?" And they're like, It's nothing." And then you have
yeah,
to be like, okay." And then like they're still sad, and then you have to ask again, like, "Are you all right?" And they're like, "I don't want to talk about it." So she's
yeah,
totally that friend. And if you don't know that friend, you are that friend. So
yeah.
yeah, she just has that kind of personality, I think. She's like very ennui.
Yeah, very much. Because she is, and this is not us getting up on her. It's just like we do like her, but she is a kind of asking to be, called out. And
Yes.
because she's coming to them with these problems that she has, and she wants advice, but she doesn't like the advice she's getting. So then she's like, no,
Hmm.
I gotta remove myself. And you see that every time she does remove herself and she's fully alone and in her thoughts, she starts crying because I think she does not
Yeah.
want to be alone, but she keeps saying she does and she's pushing people away, but she very much is in dire need of company. And that's why you see her going from friend group to city and all the different vacations or mini vacations that she has. Well, first one being that she goes with her friend to Xiaobu and it's like a family home in the country. And they're all like super grateful to have her and have someone new. And she's really good with the kids. I don't know if you noticed that
Hmm.
because I
I
feel
did,
like
yeah.
the kids, she feels like there's no pressure, right? They're not judging her. She can be fully herself. And that's the most she smiles and feels comfortable. And when she's around the other adults and they start asking about her, who she is, because she's obviously the stranger in the situation. They want to know about her.
Yeah, they just want to know about her. They want to get to know her.
Yeah.
It's not like in a malicious way.
No, it's not. But you could see it, and the actress is really good, right? You can read it
Yeah.
on her face that she's starting to feel like shrink and feel, as you said, attacked. And
Yes.
yeah, Romer does a really good job. Like one of his favorite things is just having those kind of dinner table gathering scenes where people are talking and they're having these very long conversations. So it's interesting how those ones go and the way she interacts with the people because that's how you learn about who she is. I don't know how you feel about
Yeah.
how dialogue
A
heavy this
great
movie
character
is.
like introductions.
Hmm.
I liked the conversations. I liked the dynamics. You really, got to see how you got to see who she was through these conversations. I think it's a great, I don't know, device, I guess. I love that the first the first thing she says when she's at that dinner with the lamb chops is that she identifies with lettuce, because that's so her.
Yeah,
She's like, lettuce is a friend, and she wants to be made of air.
yeah.
So that's like a character thing, like I want to be made of air. I want to be light. I want to be
Hmm.
wispy and like iron deficient, and just like not doing anything physically strenuous, which I totally respect. Like she does not want to go
Same.
sailing. Like I don't want to go sailing. I
No.
get that, but it makes her look, closed off. She definitely does what she wants, and I think that is what gets her in trouble a little bit. She's only going off instincts, and most of the time she's not feeling it.
No, yeah. And it's like she wants to, because even like there's conversations with men where she's like kind of like, oh, we should try and talk to them. And then the minute it starts happening, she realizes that maybe she's
It's
not
not
good at
right.
having conversations. She's like, I want to get out. And
Yeah. She's like, the vibe is off. It's
she's like, no, cut the cameras ASAP on that. But she will walk away immediately. She'll literally run out of a
yeah.
situation. And I had to respect that. You'd be like,
Oh,
I don't
totally.
really
Yes.
owe you an explanation. I'm just not feeling this. Bye.
It's like she runs away from these fake conversations that she has with these strangers. And I think
Hmm.
that is more genuine than staying and having a fake
Yeah.
talk with a new stranger, and it's just all like surface level. And
Hmm.
I don't know, she has like a little bit of like a bullshit detector when it comes to these, like, possible romantic interests. And I think I've done that before. I run away in the middle of a date with a stranger.
Yeah.
um, and that's just like something you can do. She lives in a
Yep.
city, and you know she could just run away. Like, no one's ever going to see her again, and that's kind of freeing.
It is.
She's surrounded by people.
I mean, yeah, especially like if you're not in your own city and you know how to get out of there, like why should you waste your time in that
Totally.
situation? But I did like that you said that she does have a bullshit detector. Sorry, because I think that's very accurate. And there's one of my favorite scenes in this is kind of towards the end when she's back, but there's a guy kind of following her a little bit and he's staring at her and they're
Oh,
stopped at the
yeah.
light. Yeah.
He's wearing that mesh t-shirt
Yeah.
tank top.
A lot, very loud. And she's like, do you want a picture? And he thinks she's being genuine. And she just walks off. And I was like, that's a power move right there. I love
Yeah.
that for her.
Do you think she's used to that? Like in her regular day-to-day life? Like, what do you think she's like when she's not having like a depressing vacation? She's just like a secretary in the city. She's like a single
Yeah.
working urban professional. She lives alone. She takes care of herself.
Yeah. I mean, I think that she's had enough of a confidence that she has a big friend group. So it's not like she's not
Hmm.
fun to be around, right? She's not right at that moment that we're
At that
watching her.
moment, maybe not so fun.
But like they obviously care enough about her to be like, hey, come with me on this vacation or, take the time to try and figure things out for her. So I don't know. I think she's probably a decent enough person to hang around. And everyone goes through a moment in their life where they're not fun to be around. So
Yeah, she cries like 7, 8 times over the course of 2 months. That's a lot.
yeah, yeah. And it's a short movie too. So and those like 98 minutes, it's quite a bit of crying. Another personality trait that I liked, that I thought fit her also quite well was her interest in astrology and like the tarot
Mm,
cards. I was like, I feel like this is very much her because I think she likes to think that she's leaving things up to fate and chance, but she's way too
yes.
controlling to allow that.
Yes, totally. That's why everything hinges on this final wonderful scene where she
Hmm.
has to see the green ray. She needs that sign, but she doesn't realize like she's controlling the signs.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, I just because she kept mentioning, astrology, and there was like you would see the cards
Yeah, they're
every now
playing
and again.
cards.
Yeah, and that's something that does come up quite a bit in his work too, but it was pretty obvious here. And I think it was on the rewatch that I fully was just like, oh, I know what she thinks she's doing, but is just she can never fully let go. And that's
Yeah.
why, she'll just, as you said, like if she's not vibing with it, like when she gets on that, she randomly decides she's going to go on like some sort of ski trip, which is insane because we all know that she absolutely would hate that. And she gets
Yes.
there and she's like, well, this is already not the way I planned it because I thought I would be getting into the apartment right away and I had to walk around. And she's like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave right away
Just not
within that
feeling
same
it.
day.
Vibe is
Yeah.
off immediately.
Which is so funny. But again, hey, why not? But speaking of, I know you wanted to talk about, and I definitely want to talk about kind of the freeness that you get being in Europe and in say France specifically of just being like, I'm gonna go to this other city, I'm gonna go to this other country right over there.
Yeah. let's talk about French vacation.
Yeah.
It's different than American vacation in the sense
Yep.
that you get a month off.
Yeah.
Even if you're
Yeah.
secretary, you can go to the prettiest places in the whole wide world, to the nicest
Mhm.
beaches, have the best food, just hop from country to country on a train and experience like wonderful summer
Yeah.
in all of its, glory. And you get to do that for like a month. And
Yeah.
I think because she gets to do that, that's why it's hitting so hard for her. She's
Mm.
If she was on American Vacation, if she was like Working Girl, Melanie Griffith, in Working Girl, she would get like a half an hour vacation and then have to go back to work and like go be her like financially independent urban
Yeah.
professional self. That's why, it's a very French movie in the sense that it's all about like emotions and feeling and like, be getting stuck in your feelings.
Hmm. It is. It's like these things are extremely small world problems that don't affect
Mm,
most of us, but there's still something that you can relate to. Stressing over what you're going to do for a month on vacation, that I can't relate to because I would just either go on that vacation by myself or I would do absolutely nothing. And that would be a great
yeah,
vacation too. I'd be like,
same.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great vacation.
Right?
I also think something that's super French about this movie is like everyone's got like sort of questionable relationship statuses.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yep.
has an ex-husband, which I actually didn't catch on the first watch, but I did kind
Mm-hmm.
of in the second. She has a fiance, she has an ex-husband. Like it's never really defined. She says they're still together. They're clearly not still together.
No.
That's like a murky situation. That's also something that maybe like you just don't see anymore these days because this was in the 80s where you can just like go up to someone and start flirting with them.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think
Yeah.
people are that open to doing that.
Definitely not in North America. Like it's very much not a North American thing. And I know this first offhand because I lived in Ireland for a bit and there people just come up to you all the time. It's like a European thing. If you're in a bar, people it's either flirting or it's just they genuinely want to have a conversation. But
Wow.
in Toronto, where I'm at, if someone random comes up to talk to you, you're immediately like, why are you bothering me? I don't
Yes,
know
yeah.
you. Do not talk to me.
It would
Which
be weird.
sucks, but it's also like, yeah. So like when I moved there, I was like, okay, I got to get into that mindset. But like in Toronto, someone came up to me and was like, oh, hey, how's your day? I'd be like, immediately get away from me.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Because you know what they're after. They want
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, why would you talk to me?
Yeah, yeah. What's your angle? Yeah, she does not like fake
Mm-mm.
people. No,
No.
she's got a bullshit detector. She's like I thought about this. I was watching it. I was like, she's crying so much. She hates fake things, like fake people, and she's kind of like Aubrey Drake Graham in that way. Like she's kind of like Drake in the sense that he doesn't like fake friends.
That's true.
He's always talking about hating fake people. So I hope he watched this movie.
I hope so too. Who knows if he's into French New Wave that he should be.
I think the reason this character is so great is because it is timeless, and I can imagine Delphine on the apps, on the dating
Yep.
apps, not going anywhere, ever
Hmm.
swiping right on everyone. It's like a timeless quality.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that like this is the 80s and visually it looks 80s, the fashion, the clothing, although everyone looks
Mhm.
absolutely great and the
Oh my
clothing is
God,
great,
yes,
like
love the
beautiful.
clothes.
But it is like the story in her character. You could have her in something today and you change a
Mm.
couple things and she's still someone that people can relate to in any situation, to be honest. Even if it's not you looking for love, it's like you just wanting something but not knowing how to attain
Trying
it
to
and
buy a
just
couch at IKEA,
we've all been there crying in the aisles of IKEA.
putting like ten frying pans in your cart on Amazon and being,
Yeah.
I can't pick one. It has to feel
Yeah.
right.
The vibes are off on this one.
Yeah, yes.
I do want to talk about the Green Ray and the how
Mm.
we come upon the Green Ray.
Did you read the book?
I've not. I've not read the book. Have you?
No.
No. I haven't gotten that deep into the shit found.
Into the research?
Yeah, didn't go that deep, but I feel like the story we got within this film was enough information for me to get the gist of it. And she happens upon it, like there's a group of older women and a man there. They're talking about this book. I guess I don't know if it was like a film or not a film, a book club, and or they just all happen to have read this book. They're talking about the Green Ray and essentially what the Green Ray is, and that it has to be like perfect condition for you to see this green ray when the sun is setting. And as they're talking about all these like things that need to be just in order for you to see the green ray, you could see that it is a metaphor for Deadfin and how everything has to be in order for her to finally feel happy. But it's also not a fact because she was planning on leaving. She did not think she would meet this guy. She did not plan. She was going back to Paris. She met him randomly and she's like, hey, do you want to take me to this random city that you're going to? Which is also unsafe, but it's a different time. It's Paris, I guess. So, or
Would you have gone with
France.
him?
No. I like to think I was that free, but I'm not. I'd be like, I'm not trying to get murdered today. But she goes and like, hey, it works out as far as what we see prior to the end credits. It works out for her. What I love is that she sees a shop called the Green Ray. And I think everything
Yes.
plays in where she's like, you know what, maybe I should have just relaxed.
Yeah.
We get onto the Green Ray. So how do you feel about that kind of that last act of the film and those last kind of 20 minutes and how it wraps up?
Oh, I loved the ending. I thought it was so
Yeah.
gorgeous and sentimental and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Yeah, I loved the scene where they were talking about the Green Ray and the old man goes on this like, description about it. He also says something like, by the time you see the Green Ray, it's already happened, or that the sun part has already reached its part, and you can't. I don't know. Then it comes to you on the horizon or something.
Yeah.
So I think that was also like a very fitting metaphor for how she feels because like you said, like she's always looking for signs and
Mm-hmm.
she's looking for like good vibes. And
Yeah.
it's also like she kind of knows what she wants already, just like the sun kind of already has set at this one angle. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like it's like a what's the difference between spontaneity and chance. Something else I noticed in that scene on the second watch was that one of the older women looked down very briefly at where Delphine is like creeping on them on the side of
Yeah.
the wall. And she kind of like smiles to herself a little bit. So I think she knows that someone's listening to this conversation and maybe drawing some like deep metaphorical
Yeah.
meaning out of it. I think that was so brilliant because you also kind of realize, oh, these are a bunch of older people, like older, wiser people, people of maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe Delphine will be one of them in 20 years or something. Like they have some kind of hidden knowledge that she doesn't have. So
Yeah.
I loved that.
I mean, I hope that for her that
Hmm.
she, feels more comfortable as she ages.
Oh yeah, yeah. Another
I
very
think she will.
relatable. Yeah, yeah. That's why I think seeing this movie at a critical time in your own life,
Mm-hmm.
listener,
Yeah.
is is what will make it like hit that much harder because I saw it when I was like kind of younger, and now that I'm older, I feel like so sentimental about
Mm.
that single person that I knew. And I don't know, it's just with age comes wisdom. I'm only 32, but I feel like this movie makes me really, mature.
I feel the same. Like I think back on, when I was traveling more in like my mid 20s and fast forward and I'm just like, oh, I feel like I'm the same person, but also not. Because it's some, I feel like once you hit your 30s, once I hit 30, I was like, oh, I guess I can stop caring
Yeah.
as much about things.
Yes.
Now I have a couple years in in my 30s, but I still relate to that because I kind of in a weird way, maybe I'm nostalgic for kind of that freeness of just
Hmm.
feeling like everything is so serious, but I also don't want to live that life because it is stressful.
Yeah. Or just feeling like you could fall in love at any moment. And like you
Yeah,
never know when like true love is gonna come and find you. And you won't even be looking for it. So stop looking for it. But also like, be open.
exactly. I'm wondering how you feel about the guy. He's in
At
it
the
for
end?
a very, yeah, a very brief amount of time, but all like the promotional pictures are of her and him essentially because that there is that great shot at the end of them too. But how do you feel that his performance and how he interacts with her in those moments when she starts crying? Because I think it's very
Ooh,
interesting because they do not know each
yes.
other.
No, they don't. What a great question. I loved the whole thing. I thought it was
Hmm.
great. All you learn from him is that he's gonna be a cabinet maker and he's
Yep.
literary. And ladies, that's enough. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, that's a
Yep.
catch. He's read The Idiot, he's read
Yeah, geez.
Dostoevsky, and he's gonna be a working man. Like, sign me up. So right off the bat, I can tell Delphine thinks this is a good vibe, not a negative vibe. The vibes are on. She is more open to like talking, and you hear her talking a lot and him kind of listening, which you don't really
Hmm.
see most of the movie. Like, people are telling her what to do most of the movie, but this guy is like actually interested in what she's saying. And he is also open, I would say. He's also open to the possibility of finding love. So you get the sense that these two people are kind of predestined to be together because, like, the situation's perfect. Like, you got a few days left on vacation, why not? I think everyone in this movie has a very interesting face. And I think maybe, I don't know, it was a different time. French actors looked different back then. And
Hmm.
I don't think they all have to be conventionally attractive for you to, root for them.
No.
Um,
I feel like that's why you root for them more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, you look like a normal person. I can
Yeah.
relate to you more. I did think she was beautiful, like in her,
Mhm.
own like delicate way. Something I read with an interview with the main actress was that the guy that they have the drinks with, it's the two guys and the two girls having like a double date.
Yeah.
They just found him on the beach and he got to be in this movie. Originally, it was just supposed to be one guy, but then they found this other guy, and they only took like one take of their conversation, of their acting, and it all made it
Oh,
into the
nice.
movie.
That's the dream.
So, what do you think of the guy?
I thought he was great, and it's interesting, yeah, that even before we get to the Green Ray part in the last final scene, after they meet in the train station, they're kind of on the little patio, as the French are always on patios, and but that's the most you hear her talk, and she talks a lot in this movie, but as you said, a lot of people are talking to her at her.
Hmm.
She's talking. She's basically letting it all out. And she's telling him
Yes,
everything. And she's putting everything out there and essentially being
she is
like,
putting everything out there. Yeah, she's laying it all out there. Yeah.
she's like, this is who I am. I don't do this typically. And she is not leaving, any room for doubt that this is who she is. And as you said, he is listening. And that's rare to see, not only in real life, but in a movie, a man just sitting there listening to a woman, and not
Yes.
because he's just like spaced out. He's like, you could see that he's genuinely listening. So
Yeah.
when we get to the Green Ray part and he asks her why she's crying, I was looking and I definitely looked even more on this time just to be like, is he uncomfortable or is he genuinely kind of moved that she's moved? And I feel like he was moved.
Yes. That makes me like him even more.
Right? I don't think he wanted to like get out and be like, oh God, I need to get out of the situation. I
The
think he was
male
just like, oh my
Delphine.
God. I know. I mean, hey, he could have. But yeah, it's interesting to have that happen to her. And it doesn't seem like, oh, she had to find a man in the end. It was like, no, this makes sense. I think the ending makes sense for this character. And like, who's to say
Yeah.
that they end up together? I don't think it matters.
Yeah, totally. I don't think it matters at all.
I just think you feel hopeful for her and that she can go back to living a hopefully happier life after this
After vacation, yes.
vacation. That's
Um,
what most people could hope.
yeah. I think it's about her still being open to happiness,
Yeah.
even if most of the happiness around her is not something she's if most of the vibes are off, she's still open to finding it. And it doesn't mean that she has to settle,
Hmm.
she doesn't want to settle. She doesn't want the fakeness. She's sick of the dating scene. And you got
Yeah.
to respect that.
Truly. Because this is bad. I should have wrote it down. I can't remember if she says how old she is. I feel like she's in her late 20s in
Really?
this.
I read her as like
Or is she early 30s?
early 30s, like 35.
Maybe. I was like, I don't know though. Sometimes with like older actors or like people
Hmm.
from the 80s, she could have been 21. She doesn't look that. I don't think she was
No.
supposed to be, but yes, but she's established. Like, she has a job, she
Yes,
has
she's
her own
established.
place.
Exactly. She's not early 20s because she's
Yeah,
established, right? She's got her
exactly.
own place.
Yeah. Are there parts of the story or the filmmaking that we haven't chatted about that you want to bring up?
Oh my gosh, my favorite scene where she runs away
Hmm.
in the middle of the group date.
Yeah.
Um I can't believe she did that, but that is something I would do and have done before. Uh, and it's so perfect for this movie because she just got finished crying to her
Hmm.
new friend. You know, she's totally breaks down and she's so hard on herself. She's breaking down. She's like, I try so hard, but people just don't like me. I don't have anything to show for myself. So it must be a me problem. And she's crying about it and probably having some kind of like, breakthrough or something. And then these two guys come over and they're just like dopey idiots
Yeah.
who are just there to like meet some girls and like go to the disco. And you can tell she hates it. She hates that she was so down on herself and now she has to do this and she has to go through the motions of talking to these guys now because
Yeah.
her nudist friend was like trying to get them some fun and she just runs away. She runs away in the middle of it. That's so relatable. We've all done something like that in the
Yeah.
past. Just like to get out of a situation, you can just run away.
Yeah.
Literally.
I know. I feel like more people should do that. I haven't ran away yet, but I do. I'm pretty big on the Irish goodbye. Especially in like if it's a group
Yeah.
setting, I'm like, I'm not saying bye to everyone. I'm just
Yeah, I'm
gonna,
not going to announce that I'm
yeah.
leaving because then that's
No one
more
cares.
awkward and it's going to invite more questions.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pretend I'm going to the bathroom and then you don't see me.
Oh, that's a classic move.
Yeah. But I love the runaway. I feel like the runaway is a little bit dramatic. I kind of like that flair.
I think it's because she lives in this occupied city and she's surrounded by people and she's just like a face in the crowd. Like she can just kind of disappear into the cityness of her life. And, she was from like a small town. If this was like a small town with like 40 people, she couldn't run away like
No,
that.
she's very much a city girl. I don't think she could
Oh, yeah.
survive in like a smaller environment
Agreed.
or even like the
Agreed.
countryside where she's like, oh, this is too remote. Even like when she goes with her friends in like that kind of remote-ish area, because her friend was gonna leave with her partner, and she's like, you gotta
Hmm.
take me with you because I can't stay here. Like I can't
Yeah.
be here. There is actually one more thing that I did want to talk about because we did kind of touch upon the fashion in this film, the clothing, because Romer's done quite a bit of black and white and color films, but when he does color, I don't know if I prefer it, but I do love it maybe a little bit more because his choice in coloring. I looked up, I tried to see, is like, does he work with a costume designer or not? And there's never a costume designer listed. I'm like, I feel like it's the actresses bringing in their own clothes. Maybe he has a say in it too, but it's just so distinct, and everyone has like distinct colors that they're wearing and everyone's just great. I don't know how you feel about the way everyone looks. And like, of course, this is France, different environment. Everyone is more fashionable than maybe North America at the time, but I thought it was great.
Oh, yeah. I love the outfits. Very much my aesthetic, I would
Hmm.
say. It's the 80s. It's hot and sunny out. You're in France. Like, there's not a care in the world. You're wearing some linen. You're
Yep.
wearing a beret. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. I was reading on the same interview with this actress where they brought up
Mm.
the clothes, and she said that there was no costumer. There was like four people filming this. There was like the sound guy, the camera guy, and a producer, and it was all her wardrobe. She went to a shop to pick out the green beret that she's wearing just because it was like windy out. So it was like a practical reason.
Hmm.
Part of the magic of this movie for sure is just that like it all comes together magically, even though there was no planning in advance.
Yeah.
How did they pull off this colorful, beautiful, cinematography?
I think he's only ever done stuff in France because he didn't own a car. He didn't like traveling via train or plane. He like refused to do it. So everything was shot in France. And I think he obviously knows those areas a lot and he loves a beach. He loves the beach more than anyone, probably. But I think he's so in tune to colors and how they can reflect a character's personality. I think it's shown in this movie quite a bit. But yeah, just great outfit for sure.
Yes, so great.
Love it.
Yes. Yeah, I wish I had that like kind of, natural style. All of her friends just wearing like cool stuff. The guy with the bandana on his head like it was a
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah.
No
No.
shirt, obviously. Very free. I haven't seen that many other Romer movies, but I can appreciate he does have great cinematography and color. And I
Mhm.
love movies of the time period that really showcase like technicolor, vibrant color.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the last couple of years there have been more movies in black and white, and I think a lot of people who don't watch black and white movies kind of are like, "Why is this in black and white?" Which is a valid question, but like you could ask the same about why is this in color? I think there should be purpose to either because we have access now to doing either
Yes,
one. So there's purpose to why this is in color as opposed to black and white, because I think this story requires color.
agreed, agreed. It's the Green Ray.
Yeah, it would be too depressing, I think, if there was no color
Mm,
in this. And she would be even more of a sad sack. And I don't know that you would relate to her
yeah.
as much because you'd be like, oh, she's kind of annoying. Right? Because you're able to kind of
Yeah.
distract with the other stuff and be like, oh, you know what? She's trying to find herself and it's so open and free. But in black and white, it would feel constrained, I think.
She's also kind of like a no makeup girl, very naturally
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. She doesn't really, try. She's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
naturally like French and fashionable. And you wouldn't get that in a black and white movie. Everyone was like had to have caked on makeup and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
wouldn't read probably like her hair is like not brushed at all ever. It still looks great.
I know. I
Um
know. Everyone's hair in this, and again, I know we keep saying this, but in a lot of his movies, the women have great hair, and it literally looks
yeah.
like they rolled out of bed, but like in a fashionable
Yeah.
way. And I was like, I could not do that.
Éric Rohmer was 66 when he made this movie. He was like a
Yeah.
66-year-old man. And how did
Yeah.
he get such like feminine insight into like the woman's psyche?
I don't know. That's something I've always noticed about his work that the men that he writes are always on purpose really annoying, and the women are just great to watch.
Hmm.
And he writes them honestly, and he's not kind of like putting them on a pedestal or like making them seem like they're not real human beings. They're people with their flaws, and they're also people with strength. Because she is a flawed character, but in a way that's very human. And there's not that many people who could write that, let alone men.
Yeah, she's flawed in I would say she's flawed in a particularly feminine way where,
Hmm.
she's dainty and she's light and she's wispy and she's, wishy-washy. And, those are
Yeah,
like the quote unquote worst qualities of a woman, but also they're her strengths.
exactly. Sometimes being a flake is to your advantage. Like I can be a flake too.
Me
Yeah.
too, me too. I find with age, I'm like less open to going on like French vacations where I'm, country hopping every 2 days.
I'd be like, let's go to one destination and that's
Yeah,
it.
and sleep, take a big nap.
Yeah, truly. Let's do the least amount of activities possible in another country.
Would you go to the beach by yourself?
Well, I mean, I know you're in LA, so I don't know how you feel about this. I'm not a beach person. I'm kind of anti-beach. It just doesn't, I'm not someone who has clothing for a beach. Unless it's like fall weather where I'm walking on a boardwalk, but to sit on a beach, I'm like, I don't wear sandals. So
You
it's
don't
just
wear
me. I'm
sandals?
like, no, it's like me and shoes on the beach. It's not a mix. So I wouldn't go to the beach alone, but I would go on vacation alone. I have gone on vacation alone. That was the other thing that I was like, I relate to her a lot, but also don't relate to. And this is as a thing getting older of like wanting alone time, where I was like, yeah, I would
Hmm.
totally just take the time to be, but she just can't. It's like I cannot fathom going anywhere on my own. Uh, so that's interesting.
I don't really like the beach either. I don't know if I'm a beach person after all. But I think doing things alone is what makes you a mature person. And I guess I'm not saying that Delphine is immature, because I'm sure she's very mature, like 360 days of the year at her job as a secretary.
Yeah.
But this is like, this is such an interesting time in her life to watch her vacation time.
I think after that experience, she'll learn to appreciate herself and that alone time.
Yes, yeah, totally.
I don't know if it's also maybe I'm reading into it, but because she lives alone post her relationships, maybe she's feeling extra lonely. Like she doesn't have a roommate
Yeah,
to be around.
I think
So
so. Yeah.
I think that's why she's also feeling it.
Yes, I agree. I think it's because like she has this time to be alone. You know, she was going to go on vacation with her friend. Like she had a plan. I think probably most of the year she's just like working
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not thinking about this stuff. But now that she has this opportunity to think about finding love, it's like hyper focused. Clock's ticking.
Very much. And I feel like it's just ticking in her head and that's what's driving
Yeah,
her
yeah.
up the wall for sure. Any other points that I missed that you want to bring up?
I thought it was interesting that she had a foil, the Swedish woman that
Mm,
was topless on the beach. Not something Delphine would ever do.
no.
Um, no. And this Swedish woman was like, I love playing games with men, and I love
Yeah.
being, like I love playing the game, the dating game. And, I'm a single woman too. I kind of have a fiance-ish, but
Yeah.
you're alone. Uh,
Yeah. They all
and
do.
yeah, everyone's, yeah, sort of in a
Tied
situation over
down.
there. Yeah. Yeah, she's like the opposite, she's kind of like a bizarro Delphine. Like she's taking her situations in a happy way in stride. And, she's looking for kind of like, to play around a little bit,
Hmm.
conversationally, kind of flirt whenever there's an opportunity. So yeah, I just think that's interesting. She's like the opposite. And she seems perfectly happy
Yeah.
doing that. But that's why I think it's so great when Delphine runs away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that she's interested by her when it's just the two of them, sorry, because she's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this woman seems happy and free, and maybe I could try and do that. And there's nothing wrong with that woman because I also respect this is who she is and good for her of just being like, I also like traveling alone. And I don't know that, I want to have, play games with men. I don't want to necessarily be bothered by them ever. I'm more on the Delphin side of that. But I love when they show up and you immediately see on Delphin's face, which is like, oh my God, how do I get out of this? Like, how long is this gonna
Yeah.
last? And she didn't stay to find out.
No, I think she maybe also feels a little bit betrayed by her new friend because
Hmm.
she was just crying and being really vulnerable in front of her. And, as a woman making a friend with another woman, you're like, what happened to our sisterhood? Like, we were just having a drink and now you got to bring these guys in and I got to, deal with that.
Yeah, I know.
You clearly don't care about me because, I'm crying in front of you and you don't even like care really. But also that's like Delphine's problem. I don't know. That's why this movie's so great. It's so complex.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mix of both where you kind of feel for her, but you're also just like, you literally just met this woman. And she also
Yeah.
told you explicitly this is what she's like wants to do on her vacation. So she was
Yeah.
also being honest. But yeah, that's why it was immature of her to run away down that flight
Yes,
of stairs.
I agree.
I also will say that guy followed her for way too long. I was like, sir, leave
Yeah.
her alone. Like, why are you running down a flight of stairs to try and get her?
He's down
That's
bad.
sketch. Yeah, I
Wants her.
guess that was very sketchy
It was,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh gosh, yeah. It was sketchy, and it was sketchy in the same way that like the mesh tank top guy was sketchy. Like,
Mhm.
clearly Delphine is not making up that like she feels uncomfortable around men.
No,
There's
not at
valid
all.
reason here for her to be so wary.
It's good that she. Well, let's hope the final guy is just a regular dude. I think he is. Let's
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that was the green ray. That was,
Yeah,
I think we covered it to the extent that,
to completion. Yeah,
yeah, it's very much a rewatchable movie, I'd say.
I think so too.
because there's no huge twists and turns, and you can pick up on so much more on a rewatch, if you space it out years from now. So if you've watched this
I
before on
agree.
listening, definitely go back and watch it at some point. But I have two more questions for you before I let you go.
Okay.
First one is the starter films. I know you said you've seen a couple other Romer films that maybe didn't love as much. So I probably know the answer, but if someone getting into Romer had never seen a film, what film are you recommending they start off with and
I'm
why?
gonna have to say The Green Ray and no
Yeah.
other films.
Yeah.
Don't watch any of his other. Just stick with this one. I haven't seen them all. That's my problem. I'm sure I'd be
Yeah.
open to seeing some more. If you have any recommendations, actually, for a second Romer movie, not this one.
Yeah, I mean, I would always my recommendation for starting off is also the Greenway, but if you like the Greenway a lot, I think that you might also like A Tale of Autumn if you haven't seen that
Mm.
one yet,
No, I
because
haven't.
that is more along the same vibe as this one. I think it's probably what's closest to the Greenway out of his other movies. So I
Mm.
think that you would like. You might also like Pauline at the Beach too. That one's also pretty similar. So I would try those two next. And if you don't like those ones, then maybe the rest of his stuff is not for you, to be honest. Because I'd say those are the ones that are closest to the Green Ray. Uh, Second question, last question of the night is a double bill. If you're going to pair the Green Ray with another film or films, if you have more than one choice, what film are you pairing it with, and what's the reason for that double bill?
Oh gosh, this is a really hard question that I struggled with for,
Hmm.
basically ever since you asked me to do this 4 years ago. And I was I was really trying to rack my brain, like what is a similar movie to this?
Hmm.
This is in its own category. So I'm throwing two out. Uh,
Yeah, good.
Maybe you can tell me what you think. So first one is Borat. He's a guy on
Nice.
vacation. No, I'm just kidding. um, he's learning about different customs and
I
traveling
mean,
around.
hey, it could be.
Yeah. But my real success just mix things up, shock you out of
Yeah.
the Romer vibe. But my real suggestion is it's this Kiyoshi Kurosawa movie called To the Ends of the Earth,
Oh, okay.
2019. It is also kind of a character study about a woman in a foreign country, Uzbekistan, and she's a travel
Okay.
host of like a traveling TV show with like a little crew, and they're following her around. And really, the story is about her and her feeling so out of place in this, foreign country, and she kind of feels depressed. And this should be an awesome experience for her, but it's not. You'd think she could make the situation into, a fun time, but her own issues are what are preventing her from having that fun time. So that's, I think, maybe the spiritual cousin of this movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I just added that to my watch list because it sounds great. I love women well, it sounds bad, struggling or going through it, but I was just like, yeah, I kind of relate to, the anxiety of just or being like, I'm not having a good time right now. And I need a moment to go through it.
Yeah, I don't like to see people succeed in movies.
No, that's boring. We've had enough of that. Time to move on. No, that's great. I'm gonna add that, or I just did as you were talking. Sorry, I was multitasking because I was
You're
like, that
allowed.
sounds great. I gotta add it now. But I also kind of had a hard time finding a movie for this, and usually don't, or I don't find it as difficult to pair things with other movies. But this one, I was like, there's ones that's similar, but I was like, I don't know if I would pair it with that. So the one that I settled on was Summertime, David Lean. It's Katharine Hepburn, and she's on vacation alone in Italy.
Oh.
And she wants to be alone on this vacation, though. So I thought it would be nice to kind of have that opposite, and she's not looking for love. She ends up finding love in this situation, but she's kind of pushing back where she just wants the time to herself. She's supposed to be on vacation. She hasn't taken vacation for a while. And it's Katharine Hepburn. So, and it's older Katharine Hepburn, and she's
Oh.
having a great time. It's beautiful and it's a shorter David Lean. He's keeping it tight. It's not 4 hours long. But I think it would be a good pairing to see of someone who Delphine could be later on if she decides to ever go on a
Interesting.
vacation somewhere after. So I thought that would be a nice pairing. And I think I love Summertime. It's one of my favorites. So I always recommend that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I added it to my letterbox list. I love David Lean.
No, I think you'll like it a lot,
Is
especially
it
if you
in
do
color?
like David Lean. It's in color.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Those are two great movies for the listeners to add to their watch list if they haven't already watched those. Probably guesses they might not have. So there you go. It left you with
You're
some
welcome.
more wisdom. But Frieda, thank you so much for coming on talking about the
Oh
Green
my
Ray. This is a
gosh.
great conversation.
Thank
I
you
had a
so
lot
much
of
for
fun.
having me.
No,
Yeah.
please listen. I had a great time talking about Delphine and running away and relating to that. So anytime, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Can I plug my letterbox real quick?
Yes, please.
Unlike Delphine, I'm open to new followers.
Yeah, please. And I'll put it in the show notes too, so people can
Thanks.
click to it.
Thank you. It's Bomback_hater.
I love that.
Yeah. But thanks again. This was really fun.
No bye, no aloha.
Seeing Faces in Movies is an official podcast of the Royal Film Club. It's hosted and edited by Felicia with intro music by Lamar Walker. If you like what you heard, let us know at seeingfacesmovies.com or send us an email at seeingfacesmovies@gmail.com. And while you're at it, please subscribe and rate the show wherever you listen to your podcast. And stay tuned for our next episode on Kurosawa.